Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. Today on Whistle Talk, join me, Mike D, the referee, as I speak with Tom Barlow, current NJFOA Shore Chapter Cadet Supervisor and Second Vice President. All right, here we are on our next episode of Whistle Talk. Again, this is Mike D, the referee, and today's guest, we have Tom Barlow. Tom Barlow is a white hat in our Shore Chapter Association. Tom was also you were a couple different positions, weren't you, before you took over the white hat?
Yeah, I was mostly a deep wing in college, or in high school, excuse me. Also doing deep wing in college in addition to some referee. But I've worked everywhere in a varsity game. I've worked the wing, I've worked the umpire. But primary was deep wing, and then back when we did 5-man, I was a back judge as well.
Okay. The main reason why I asked Tom to join us today is Tom also has a incredible role in our Shore Chapter. Tom is the head of our cadet program, so it's Tom's job to try to get all our newer officials trained and ready to go for the football season. So can you provide us a little bit of an overview of what you do with that, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. So it pretty much starts with recruitment. I'm the main point of contact for anybody who's even remotely interested. The NJSIA and the NFHS put out interest lists from contact forms on their website. So I'm sort of the first person reaching out to them, let them know if they have any questions, they can talk to me, let them know where our application is and everything. And then as March approaches, I'm obviously preparing material, renting classroom space, and just communicating to everybody when the class is going to start, what the schedule is going to look like. And then as March comes through, we've teaching the classes, organizing topics and materials, putting film together for the classes. And then I think probably my most important job with all of this is I'm really the first true officiating mentor for these guys. I'm that resource that if they have any questions, if they need help with something, and, I train them on all the intricacies of officiating too, how to make sure we're paying dues on time to the organization, registering with the NJSIA for their background checks. Ultimately just preparing them to be on the field and be quality members of the organization as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, this is your third year in this role?
Yeah, this upcoming class will be the third one. Yep.
Okay. So you've definitely got to see some raw people out there, some newer people, some definitely people with different levels of experience in and out. With the training programs that you have, how do you structure everything with that? Like, how does it all play out for you? You're talking about in the classroom, you're talking about film and stuff like that. How does all that stuff tie in for the structure of the program?
Sure. So we start in early March. The classes run for about 15 weeks, and it ends with the state rules exam in June. For the most part, we go over one rule a week in the rule book. There's 10 rules in the high school football rule book. Some of the longer ones take two. Definitions is a lot of information, and kicking game too can be endlessly complicated. So
That's
we sort of
the
take
fun one.
we sort of take 2 weeks to do that. We put out a quiz for each rule. We sort of give it as homework, quote unquote. If you don't have time, that's okay. But we go over it first week or first thing in the next class after we go over that rule, kind of a wrap up to if there's any questions. We encourage learning on their own time as well, because it's important, as experienced officials know, to always stay in the rule book. It's not just take the class, pass the test, and you're set for life. There's constant learning. There's always rules changes, mechanics changes. Each week in class, we sort of have a little bit of a structure. I go over rules information. We'll put out some film relevant to that rule, even if it's basic stuff like definition, like, hey, here's what a blindside block looks like, even if we're not talking about the penalty enforcement or anything like that. And then as we approach to August, we try to put together a clinic on the field, whether that's a varsity scrimmage with a crew. We try to get together a quad scrimmage where there's a lot of action going on, both sides of the field, a lot of opportunities for the guys. And this past year, we also did a youth set of scrimmages where they were essentially playing halves, a whole bunch of teams, and the guys got out there and we were able to work 6 officials with a few instructors out there, just guiding them through the process and really just getting their feet wet on the field. And
That's great
then in
stuff.
the fall, we throw in what I call refresher classes. One of the downsides, I really like the Marks in Spring program, but one of the downsides that I thought what you and I went through where we were doing the class in the fall is you could come in on Wednesday or Tuesday, whatever it is, and talk about what you saw that weekend and any questions. So I really wanted to sort of be able to continue that for them. So our fall refresher classes, we touch a little bit more on mechanics. We still hit some rules, stuff and such, but we really try to talk about what I saw, what other guys saw, and what the new guys saw, anything they had questions about, sort of to just clarify things as they are getting that time on the field to really get them a true understanding.
Yeah, and you mentioned the mechanics. When I came through the course, there wasn't really much mechanics stuff that we were taught in the classroom. And for the listeners out there that don't know what we're referring to, the mechanics is basically our movements, our keys, what we're looking for, and different things like that. So that was something that definitely took some time to learn. And no matter what experience level, looking at it from the perspective that we're looking at it now, it changes a whole lot. So, your primary aspects that you're focusing on during the training process, you hit on touching on the different rules and stuff like that. With that, how are you making sure that the cadets are grasping it? Because some people have a type A personality and are a little bit more in tune with things. Other people could be completely fresh and just love the sport of football. So how are we making sure that everybody is getting it?
So, and I sort of put this out there, it's on each individual too to learn.
Yeah.
So you got to find what works best for you. For me, I can read something and understand it pretty good. So I'm the kind of guy who reads the rule book. Some guy might be the type of guy that likes looking at a PowerPoint and things summarized. So I put all my PowerPoints out there. Some guys may better understand it, and I think a lot of people better understand it with film. And we try to show examples of rules in action on the field, even if maybe it's not hey, this is a perfect example of what, a fourth play would look like. Even if we try to build on what the film, hey, what would happen if this occurred as opposed to this? We really try to use film and, real life examples to sort of emphasize what the rules and how we go about it.
Yeah, we've been really, really lucky with the support from the state on the film stuff, on utilizing Huddle and having the schools now work with us to utilize Huddle to get a copy of their game film so that we can go back and critique ourselves too. It's just like the coaches watch the film and see what they did, the players watch the film and see what they did. It's also something for us, and it's a great teaching tool. And I know myself, our crew, we'll hit on a couple different topics. We'll text each other, hey, take a look at play number 17. I think we could have done this a little bit better. Or just even reinforcing, hey, great call on that call that the coach may have been adamantly disagreeing with. We can go back and we could say, no, we hit that one right. Or maybe the coach did have a point. So that the film stuff is fantastic. When you're talking now on field performance, what kind of the skills are you talking about with the guys and gals that are in the class itself? Like, what are you looking to truly emphasize for them, truly as a beginner stepping onto the field for the first time? What type of skills are you really telling them to try to figure out?
So the big thing, and I think you touched on this with Fritz, is really to avoid ball watching.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, one of the hardest habits to break. As a player, I coach some youth, and even as a fan, your habit is always to look where the ball is and what's happening. Um, so the mindset you need to have for that is there's 22 players on the field, only one of them holding the ball, and maybe a second one trying to make a play on that ball. So when we talk about mechanics, of course, we talk about your keys, so what you're looking at before the snap, at the snap, and then you're transitioning kind of to a zone or a particular area of responsibility and what to look for. And that we talk a lot about with some major fouls like blindside blocks, defensive pass interference. We talk about, sort of indicators that something bad's going to happen. So with a blindside
Yep.
block, when a running back reverses field and suddenly everybody is going one direction and now turning another direction, we sort of say, hey, your alarm bells could be going off. Here's where something bad happens. So we try to talk about some indicators where, something bad might happen,
Yeah.
uh, being able to recognize that. And we really stress trying to emphasize what the effect of something has on the play as well. There could be plenty of holding or any sort of contact to a receiver, but the real determination of whether that's a foul or not comes to how it affects the play and how it affects a player's ability to make that play and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're looking to have everybody play football. We don't want to sit there and throw flags on every single play if it's not truly affecting the play. Let the kids play.
Absolutely.
So I know a lot of times because of the newness of it, the decision making, the communication that the cadets have, just the uncertainty. Do I throw a flag here? I know there were times where I didn't blow a whistle in a scenario that needed to have the whistle stop the play. What are you doing with the cadets in order to make them a little bit more aware of that, especially just because of the speed of the game? And as you go from the youth level to the high school level to the college level, the biggest change just overall is not the size of the kids, but it's the speed of the game itself. So how are you talking to the cadets about understanding the speed and for them to make the quick decision on what they see?
So, it's you're absolutely right. The speed changes, and I've done plenty of high school, and I started college this year, and even the slight transition from varsity to junior college, you can see the speed difference. These are
Yeah.
some of the best players that were on their high school teams, and now there's 22 of the best high school players.
Yep.
The big thing is to just really be able to slow down and recognize what's happening. As you get more experience, the game will slow down. I tell you now, 14 years in, I think I am, the game looks a lot different than it did back
Yeah.
in 2012 to me. And in many ways, but as in terms of the speed, it is much slower. I'm able to see things a lot better. But big thing I always focus on is that and it might be a public misconception, but calls necessarily don't need to always be quick.
Hmm.
That's something our new officials always struggle with. They think they have to blow that whistle right now or throw that flag right away, and you can take that extra second, that extra 2 seconds to really process what you saw and then make the call from there. Of course, as officials, we want accurate and quick calls, but we'd rather accurate and a slow call than a quick call that is inaccurate.
Correct.
And we just stress to just trust what they know. They learned it, and we also like to tell them to rely on their partners too, because when you're new, the beauty of football is there's always at least two other guys out there with you.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't know something, chances are one of them will know it and they can help you. And really, it's just we sort of give them the whole picture. The rules are kind of the law and what needs to happen, and the mechanics put you in the best position to enforce them, and then philosophies give you that guidance to navigate the gray area or the uncertainty.
And this is where I agree with you. I think the mechanics of the game for us just You could be the smartest person in the world, know the rule book inside and out, but if your eyes aren't in your spot, that's when the game speeds up because then your head starts going all over the place. And I know through some of our state meetings, they talk about having sniper eyes and different things like that, and just like focusing on your particular keys. It really does make the game slow down for you instead of trying to watch everything. So it's definitely a good point there with the mechanics. Um, what other technical skills do you think we need that are there? Because not everybody are good people persons. Probably
Yeah.
said that wrong, but just the communication skills that we have with the players, with the coaches, sometimes with the fans as we're exiting the field. Like, what do you think? Like, what kind of qualities are you looking for with the officials in that aspect?
So I think Mark said this on your last one. You got to have a passion for this.
Yeah.
It really is. You're never going to make a living off of it, and the headaches we sometimes have to deal with, like you said, with coaches, with fans. Um, if you're walking out of there saying I hate doing this, and that's just going to be exacerbated by the abuse we take. So,
And just
um,
to, I apologize, just to cut you off really quick, just to add to it, you said we're not going to make a living off of this. In the NFL, I think there's what now 20 full-time officials. That's all that they do. Like everybody still has a second career that we're working on, and we're doing football as a passion, as an extracurricular per se. So just a lot of casual fans don't understand that we have jobs and lives and families and different things like that. So just want to emphasize that too. No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no worries. That's absolutely accurate. I'm not 100% sure, like you said, on what full times are in the NFL, but I can tell you a majority of them are working. They're leaving, on Thursday night or Friday
Yep.
afternoon, potentially, getting some work done for their full time job on top of studying film and all that. And the time commitment it takes, you really need a passion for it. Probably not the best way to say another skill you need, but short term memory loss. Um, you need to be able to move on from a bad play or a bad
Yeah.
game and just get better and improve yourself. And also that falls into the coaches when a coach is making you go nuts over a call you made 3 plays ago. You just got to try to do your best and move on. But big thing too is just constantly learning. You need to be able to constantly learn from your mistakes, with the advice of your peers or the experienced officials, your mentors, and just be able to certainly being able to accept criticism from a coaching and fan and player standpoint, but you also need to be able to accept criticism from other officials to learn and get better because that's something that I think you and I can say, and most people would say, we want all officials to be better.
Yeah,
So we
absolutely.
need to, as new officials, we really need to be able to take the advice. And sometimes it may not always be the best advice, but as long as you can listen to it and take the importance out of it, that's really important to becoming a successful official.
Yeah, and the communication aspect just with everybody goes a real long way. I'm in the middle of the field now as the umpire. You're in the middle of the field now as the head referee. So we're interacting a lot more with the players as opposed to when we were on the wings dealing with the coaches and stuff like that. But just being able to communicate and getting the word across, talk to the kids, let them know. Like personally, I'd rather the first time I see a hold go up and say, "Hey, 69, get the hands inside. You're going to have to bang it, unless it's a really egregious one at the point of the attack." But I'd rather talk to the kids and communicate with them and let them play football. Let them know, "Hey, I saw that. Let's not let it happen again." And then talk to the defense. "Hey, I got you." And same thing with the coaches. I think that's something that a lot of newer officials are a little tentative with at times, of just communicating it and just kind of selling it in essence too.
Absolutely, and that has something to do with the background of official or of new officials a little bit because most of them were players or coaches
Yeah.
that spent their careers criticizing the officials. Now they're out there in that, and they don't want to be
Guilt,
criticized.
guilty.
Guilty. Um, my dad was always an official, so I learned very soon to not criticize them. But that's the hardest thing. They get defensive early on. It's important to kind of be level-headed and have a line of communication with the coaches and the players. And even if it doesn't look like it in the immediate term, the short term, it does go a long way. A coach has much more respect for you when you tell him, even if he doesn't like what you have to say.
Yeah, we had a scenario this past year where we had an inadvertent whistle, and it's basically the cardinal sin for us of not blowing the whistle, and we made the mistake, and it was a big game. It was a good football game at the time, and our white hat had to go over to the head coach, and he said to the coach, "Listen, coach, we screwed up. We messed that one up. We're gonna
Yep.
have to redo. We're gonna have to redo the down. That one falls on us." And the coach said, "That sucks. I appreciate you letting me know. All right." And he moved on, and then the rest of the game went nice and smooth after that. It was a hiccup. It's something that you never want to hear or see happening, but we were lucky enough that it was a good game with a really good coach that he accepted it, understood we screwed up, we admitted our screw up, and we were able to then go on and officiate a good game, and we're part of a great football game. So
Yep.
understanding that and communicating that truly does go a long way.
It
Um,
really does. Yep.
So, what advice do you have for aspiring officials? Like, what other things as they're preparing physically? Maybe you talked about getting into the book, doing some stuff on their own. What other things can these new people do? Do they have access to huddle film on their own?
Oh yeah, I go over it very early on in the program. They can all sign up for huddle right into our
Gotcha.
chapter, and throughout the program, I share with them the film I go over in class. They can look at it on their own time, and then they're more than welcome to request the games that they work on the chains to watch. I'm happy to send them my games. Plenty of referees and crews are happy to send them just to really watch. Um, and one advice I always say is to sort of be a jack of all trades as opposed to a master of one, right? I think you mentioned it a little earlier. You can't be an expert, be able to recite the rule book cover to cover and with no knowledge of the mechanics and how
Mm-hmm.
to officiate. Um, but on the same token, you can't be a master of mechanics and with no knowledge of the rules. So just have a good comprehensive knowledge of everything. Rely on your partners for the areas you lack. From a physical perspective, I mean, we can always say, and I'm sure most people in the world would like to be in better shape, but don't just wake up in August and be like, okay, I got to be out there on the field. Get out there, get some physical exercise, and um, another thing I always say is find a mentor. We as a chapter, we try to sort of set up some mentors, but I also believe that the best way is to just find someone who's like you, whether it's the guy who who recommended you join, or somebody you get along with very well, and just be able to kind of go under their wing. They can guide you through the processes. They're going to be that guy you call up after a game. And, I have a few of them even experienced as I am now. I have that guy that I can call up and be like, hey, I just can't figure this out. What
Yep.
should I have done, or how should I have done this differently? And above all else, you got to have fun. That's really important. If you're going out there and, you're stressed out, you're nervous and you're anxious, and, it's not going to be fun. Just go out there and try to have fun. Mistakes are going to happen. Like you said, a good crew had the end all be all of mistakes in officiating, which is an inadvertent whistle. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you guys still had fun that night. You moved on, and that's
Yep.
the most important thing.
But the person who did have the inadvertent whistle, for all the listeners, they did have to buy the first round of beers after we went out. So
Of
it
course,
was.
of course.
So that's just a little common inside stuff for the different crews. So
Yep.
you had brought up the chains, and a lot of people don't. When you and I first started, our first year, we weren't allowed to work varsity football games on the field, but we were allowed to work the chains for the games. And I found that personally to be one of the most valuable things, because I got to sit there and I like to hold the box. I like to hold the down indicator, because the down indicator followed the official as opposed to this change just staying 10 yards apart. I like to hold the box because I like to have the correspondence with the official. Hey, what did you see on that play? You didn't throw that one, or just that was a huge teaching thing for me personally. What are your thoughts on with the chains and stuff like that?
It's really great. It's valuable experience. Um, we've had some conversations too about putting our new guys and our stats up on the clock as well. That's
Okay.
something that used to happen way back when before we started. Um, but that's a really good thing too, because then you get a good understanding of the clock and you get a bird's eye view of the game that's going on. But the
Yep.
chains are great, but it's important that you engage, like you said, talk to the officials, even if it's not during the game, at halftime,
Yeah.
after the game. Say, hey, what did you see here? And it's important when you're on those chains to not ball watch as well.
Hmm.
So get out there, watch the officials, watch what they're doing, how they're moving. Look at the areas that everybody else in the stadium isn't looking at. See what you see, and I would say watch the position you want to work, and then when you're sort of have an understanding of what you should be doing, watch what the position you want to work should be watching during the play. So if you're holding that, we'll just say you're holding the stake on the first down and you want to be a deep wing, watch that wide receiver, watch the action of the defenders on the
Yep.
pass play and those sorts of things, and that will help you to sort of get that quote unquote experience and help slow the game down for you when you are out on the field.
Yeah, it really is an invaluable tool just to get yourself out there. I teach driver's ed in high school, and I always tell the kids the only way that you're really going to learn is by actually driving, and it's the same thing with officiating. The only way you get to
Yep,
learn it is by being a part of it, being on the field, and even if it's just on the sideline, you're still a part of it and you're still able to see stuff. And I know still today at halftime, I go in, I ask the train guys, hey, what did you guys see? What are you guys thinking? Did I miss anything? And clock operators, sometimes they stay upstairs, but if they come down at halftime, I'm always hitting them up, even for in-game advice, to see if I possibly missed something. They're like, oh yeah, Mike on the edge, 23 keeps on holding, whatever it may be. So it's just always continuing to learn in that aspect.
absolutely.
So, Tom, you get to be my first guest for episode number one. I'm going to start a new segment called Flagged Facts. So, what we're going to do here, I'm going to share the screen, and I've put together three questions. And for our new listeners, you're going to see the lingo and the language that us officials have to listen to and learn, as opposed to, hey, the quarterback drops back, or well, just basically our terminology that we use. And these are three questions that our upcoming officials may possibly see on their test in order to get certified. So let me share the screen here with Tom. All right. So let's see. There we go. Little Jeopardy. So we got flagged facts, the whistle talk rule quiz. So, question number one. A, 3rd and 5 at B's 10. A17 runs close to B5, where his progress is stopped inbounds, but he is driven backwards out of bounds. An official's timeout is called for a measurement. So, common scenario that happens, forward progress. Tom, when would we start the snap? When would we start the clock on the next play?
All right. So because his forward progress was stopped inbounds, um, that is a situation where the clock would continue running. He's still inbounds. The fact that he's driven backwards out of bounds is sort of immaterial.
Mm-hmm.
But we are stopping the clock for an official's timeout to measure it because we're close to the line to gain there. So after that measurement is done, we're going to start the clock on the ready for play or the referee's whistle. For those who don't know what the ready for play is,
Yep.
um, because we had an administrative stoppage for the officials, the play clock is going to be 25-second play clock as opposed to 40.
Ding, 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 ding. All right, one for one. And again, some things that people don't understand. His forward progress was stopped inbounds, even though he went out of bounds. So a lot of coaches are like, well, it was out of bounds. the play technically ended inbounds, which is still going to keep the clock going. But now, because we had to stop the clock for the measurement, we're going to take our time. We're not going to let the clock just keep running off. But then once we're set, once we know if it's first down, or in this scenario, if it's fourth down, once we're ready to go, white hat winds the arm and the clock is going. And we tell everybody, we communicate it. Hey guys, we're on the ready for play. We're on the ready for play. So that everybody knows it. But a lot of people up in the stands are screaming, why is the clock running? All right. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, A, first and 10 from A's 20. And to clarify, when we're talking about A and B, A is the offense, B is the defense. So this is the offense has the ball, team A has the ball, first down, 10 yards to go at their own 20-yard line at A's 20. Quarterback A3 is under pressure when center A50 holds the rusher B99 at the A15. A3 throws the pass, caught by A89 at the A30 where he goes out of bounds. Tom, what do you got?
All right, so we obviously have a foul for holding. It makes it pretty obvious. That's how these test questions will be. It'll tell you that there's a foul. So because he holds him behind the line of scrimmage prior to 2023, that would have been a spot foul. But now it is much more aligned with the NCAA and college rules, and NFL rules.
NFL rules.
Me. So we're gonna enforce that from the 20-yard line, the previous spot, the original line of scrimmage. So we're gonna have a first and 20 at the A10, and because we'll always like to talk about the clock too, because it was a completed pass where the runner went out of bounds. We're going to start the next clock on the snap.
Correct. So the clock is always going to be dictated by, if there was no foul, how did the play end? So in this scenario, the play ended with the runner going out of bounds. So the clock is going to start on the snap, as opposed to we administer, we walk it back 10 yards. And then once the next snap happens is when the clock is going to restart. So again, another very key element that a lot of people don't understand. If he were to get tackled inbounds, then when we spotted the ball and placed it, we'd start the clock then. But because he went out of bounds, that's where the play ended. If he didn't go out of bounds, if the runner were to go 80 yards and score a touchdown, clock would have stopped on that one. So after we administer the play and unfortunately take back an 80-yard touchdown, which stinks, clock would start on the snap again and not just on the ready for play. All right, and our third question, this one has a couple little tricky nuances in it. So we got A, first and 10 at A's 40-yard line. A23 runs a sweep, gains 12 yards to the B48. During the play, A79 is guilty of holding at the A45. After the play now, A79 curses at the line judge who threw their flag. What do we got here, Tom?
All right. So first things first, we notice we have a live ball foul and a dead ball foul. So for Rule 10, those are enforced separately and in the order of occurrence for dead ball fouls. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to enforce the holding foul because that was behind the end of the run and beyond the line of scrimmage. We are going to enforce that from the spot of the foul. So I'm just working through the math here. So we're going to go back. We're going to have, before we enforce the dead ball foul, we're going to have a first and 15, the A35. But then we're going to have a dead ball foul for an unsportsmanlike conduct against A79. So we're going to go back a first and 30 at the A20. Did I do the math right there? Yeah.
You got it. Yep. So again, just to clarify, because the hold happened at the 45-yard line, which was past the original line of scrimmage, we're going to enforce the penalty, the first penalty, the holding penalty, from that 45. If the penalty were to happen behind the line of scrimmage in the offense's backfield, we would have gone back to the previous spot. So now we're going to go from the spot of the foul, A45. We're going to move it back 10 yards from there. And now because you've got a dead ball foul, meaning this happened after the play, the player cursed out the line judge, so you got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. That's a 15-yard penalty. So that's now going to be tacked on. So you're going to basically be moving back 20 yards, replaying the down. So 1st and 30 from the A20. That's a big play right there. And unfortunately, stuff like that does happen. So, all right. Well, Tom, I appreciate you being our first person on our new segment here. We're going to add these segments in each and every week. Try to see the knowledge that everybody has. I am looking to bring in some coaches too, so it's going to be interested to see how the coaches react to reading some of these things. And just so all the listeners know, this is the stuff that we have to go through on a play-by-play basis. We're processing these things as we're going, and this is why you'll see crews come together, talk it over. What do you got? Okay, where are we enforcing it from? And everybody is communicating with each other, communicating with the coaches about what we saw, what we got, and letting them know, saying, all right, coach, this is what's going on. And on the opposite side, to the team that the violations happen to, okay, coach, this is what you're going to get. What do you want if you accept the penalty and not accepting the penalty? Then we're also, again, communicating. I know my head referee relies a lot on me. How did the play end? So I'm communicating that on, all right, what do we got with the clock now? So that he knows to wind it, or if we're going on the snap. No. Tom, appreciate that. Great job. Couple more things, and then we can wrap this all up. A little plug for you, Tom. A little plug for you and the association. Where can people go to try to, if they're interested in becoming an official, where can they look to go to try to find out information, to sign up, to become part of this awesome world that we're in?
So basically, I would say anywhere in the country. If you go to nfhs.org, there's a button for campaigns at the top, and I believe the first one is Become an Official. That will sort of put you, when I mentioned earlier that we get those contact forms from the Federation and the NJSIA, that'll put you in a thing to put all your contact information in, what sports you want to do, whether it's just football, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, lacrosse. You can select everything. For New Jersey, njsia.org/officials. And I think, again, same thing. One of the top links on the page is Become an Official. And worst case scenario, though, those two should get you what you need. But if you just Google your state, so Nebraska, California Athletic Association, that should take you to your state's main governing body for high school athletics. And most likely with the nationwide campaign for recruiting officials, it should be pretty easy to find information on becoming an official, or at the very least where you can reach the contact information for specific sports and their chapters throughout.
So I'm going to attach to this podcast the links to the different associations that we have in the state of New Jersey, plus the national organization. So if anybody looking for those links, they will be in the bio of today's episode. So definitely have that. And we're always looking, again, to try to get great minds to get involved in this. And as Tom mentioned, our new cadet class is going to be starting soon, middle of March, you said. So we're looking to get it going.
Ours starts March 13th because I'm away next week, but most classes in the state are starting this coming Wednesday, the 6th.
How do the numbers look? Do you have a lot of interest right now?
We definitely have a lot of interest. The key factor between interest and is who actually comes. And so right now we got, I think, about 19 paid. And another 17 or so that have signed up. So assuming usually we get about half the people that signed up show up who haven't paid prior to starting. So we're expecting definitely some good numbers. If this stays, this will be our biggest class ever by far. I think last year was our biggest class ever, and that was 15. So if we
Oh, awesome.
can crack 20 this year, that would be very good.
So, what kind of mindset should these new aspiring officials try to adapt as they're coming in? What can you say about that, about their overall mindset before they even come out here?
So definitely one thing first and foremost is you have to kind of drop the player, coach, fan mindset. You have to start looking things. It is a different perspective, even though it may not seem like it.
Yep.
You have to see things as an official. You can't say, well, if I was playing, I would want that called. Well, if you're not playing now, you're officiating. You really have to view that a little differently. And same goes for watching, right? I'm not telling you to not watch your favorite team on Sunday, even though I'm a Giants fan and that's no fun. But
Same
uh,
here.
you have to, even when you're watching football on Saturday and Sunday, try to see things as an official, watch what they're doing. It just sort of, and not to make it, a major portion of your life, but just try to take that different mindset as an official. Another advice I always give is just try to get better at one thing every game. It can be overwhelming when you're out there and you're new and you're like, oh man, I got to do this. I got to do this. I could be looking at this. And your head's spinning. Take that freshman JV youth game. Say, I want to get better at watching my key, or I want to get better at seeing the blocking or whatever, and just try to get better that game. And then you master that, you move on to the next thing. And before you know it, those things that you're working on will become second nature. Then you can focus on the more intricate stuff, the bigger stuff. Just focus on the basics, get better at those, and then the game will slow down and the rest will come to you.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So, to wrap this up, um, anything else that you'd like to share about your experience or importance when it comes to the training of new officials that we want to get out there?
Yeah. So, I mean, new officials, I think that's one of the most important jobs. And we had an executive board meeting recently, and that came up as well. It's new officials are the lifeblood of every organization.
Yep.
We see, even, those guys that are 25, 30 years in, yeah, they are great. They're valuable minds. We love having them, but at some point they're going to retire. They're going to be gone. They're not going to be able to be on the field anymore. So, training the new officials is of the paramount importance, because 10 years from now, our new officials are going to be the experienced officials. And if they're not getting the proper training early in their career, it could be a detriment to the organization down the road. And, every official out there has some insights to give to another official.
Yep.
I can learn something from a guy who's been in 2 or 3 years, same way I could learn something from a guy who's been doing college for 25 years. And if I could offer any other advice, is if you're out there and you're thinking about this, you're tossing it around and maybe saying, well, my kids, and I would say just do it now, because the excuses are only going to multiply and get
Yep.
more. I very fortunate. My dad was an official for a long time. I went to games with him when I was a kid. So it really was a question of when for me as opposed to if, but I joined right in college, and year or two, I fell in love with it, and here I am, whereas some people I know thought about it, and then now they're 5, 10 years down the road. Well, now I definitely can't do it. So join up, and if it's not for you after a year or two, or you're too busy, you can. There's no shame in stepping away, and once you are certified and passed, you can always come back.
Yep.
It's not necessarily always the case that you have to go through the entire program and class again. You generally just have a recertification test that you can take. So if you have to step away for family stuff or kids or job or anything like that, you can always come back. But if you have the availability now, I would say just sign up and do it.
That's great stuff. I agree. That really good stuff. So, Tom, I'd like to thank you once again for joining us today here on Whistle Talk. Again, Tom Barlow, part of the New Jersey Shore chapter of officials, also our cadet supervisor. thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for joining us. And again, if anybody out there has any comments or questions, please feel free to put them on the bottom of the podcast in the bio. You'll see a section there. Again, I am going to upload all the different links to the different associations. So if you are interested, please, as Tom said, go on there, sign up for it, get it going, get it started. And hopefully we'll see some of you all out on the football field. Once again, Tom, thank you very much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good day, all.
All right, how's everybody doing today? This is Mike D, the referee. Today I am at Harrah's Casino down in Atlantic City. About to go back upstairs for the Glazier Football Clinic. Let me flip the camera around here. Oh, here we go. There's the Glazier Clinic, Football Coaches Clinic. Doing a little rubbing of elbows with some people, meeting some people that I will be having on some future episodes, talking about how the officiating is at the different levels. We got coaches here from our AYF level, which is our youth level, all the way up to college coaches. Coach Shiano, who is supposed to be here later on, Coach Brown from Syracuse. Saw him walking around before. So we got guys from all different levels here, and looking to set up some interviews to help educate all of us on becoming a better official and just enjoying the game of football that much more. So I'll keep you posted as we go through the day.